people, we're back. It is week 12, Thanksgiving week of the fantasy season, but it's also the final week of the regular season, which means starting week 13, we move into the playoffs. And for those of us that are lucky enough to make it, things get real because money is on the line. Now, a couple of teams still owe me some dues. I will be sending you out some passive-aggressive emails this week, so be expecting those in your inbox. But for the rest of you, thank you for paying your dues, and I hope some of y'all get that money back. I hope that I get the big one, but, at this point, I'll be lucky if I get in the playoffs. So, that said, that's what we're talking about here at the beginning. Let's talk about the playoff bracket. It's still a little bit up in the air. We got a couple of teams that have pretty much cemented their place in the playoffs, but there are a lot of us that are either barely in the playoffs or just on the cusp knocking on the door to get into the playoffs. And in fact, we had one team get bumped out last week and another team slide in. We may see that again this week depending on how things go. So here's where the playoffs stand right now. The number one team, despite losing to my Lucille's Balls this week, hey ho, we got a Lloyd Dobler Express. I was able to break that 6-game winning streak, but that was not enough to kick him out of the number one spot. He is sitting at 8-3. It's the best record in the league, and he is holding on to that week one of the playoffs bye. In the number two spot, also, despite having lost last week to Everyone is Broken, sitting in at 7-4, Memphis Mains holding on to their bye in the first week of the playoffs. Now, you might be asking yourself, how is Memphis Mains still the number two team when he has the same record as Michelle's Everyone is Broken and just lost to her? Well, I'll tell you. Just like I said last week, because their records are the same, it then goes to points scored. And y'all may remember Memphis Mains has been putting up big points all year long. And so that's why he's still in that number two spot. Meanwhile, and this is where it gets interesting, right? So Everyone is Broken defeated Memphis Mains last week. Jive Turkeys defeated Fayetteville River last week and beat them by enough points that Bubba, was able to slide past Michelle's Everyone is Broken into the number 3 spot. He actually has like 9-point-something points more than Michelle's Everyone is Broken for the season. So that's why he moved ahead of her. But then, like I said, number 4 is Everyone is Broken, sitting at 7-4. Then in the 5 spot, My Lucille's Balls moved up a spot. We're sitting at 6-5, barely clinging to a playoff spot right now. Big win for us last week, defeating Lloyd Dobler Express. Didn't think that was going to happen. I sacrificed, some chickens to the fantasy gods, and it worked out for me, I guess. So, and then my wife's team, who had been in the 5 spot last week, got bumped out of the fantasy playoffs due to her loss. She lost to Too Good For You. And it was not a pretty showing, and so she got bumped out of the fantasy playoffs, and Trash Pandas slid right in there. That said, Trash Pandas and I were both sitting at 6-5. A loss could knock either one of us out, so we really need to get it done this week if we want to hold on to the playoffs. And as we've seen, even if we win next week, there could be a team that comes in that's, because we've got a few other teams sitting at 6-5. We could have another team that puts up a bunch of points next week and wins also and is able to slide past one of us. So we are precariously teetering on the edge of being in the playoffs. So that's our playoffs as it stands right now. But as I said, things could very well change, depending on what happens this week. So let's talk about this week. My team, Lucille's Balls, 6-5, going against Riverside Smash, who had a big win last week over, who did they beat? They beat football team Perry and kind of hurt their chances of getting into the playoffs. So big win for them. They're sitting at 4-7. I'm really hoping I can beat them and put up enough points that I can hold on to a playoff spot. That said, 3 of my players are on the COVID list for this week, and one of them is Adam Thielen. So I am feeling that. Oh. Now, everyone is broken, as I said, sitting at 7-4, taking on the Fayetteville Riverettes. This has not been the Riverettes' year. They were, I think, played in the finals last year. Maybe it was the year before, but they've usually been a playoff team. They're sitting at 3-8. They're in a rebuilding year, I guess. Jive Turkeys also sitting at 7-4, going against Lloyd Dobler Express sitting at 8-3. This game might actually have playoff bye implications depending on how it goes. If Bubba gets a major upset and is able to put up a bunch of points, he might slide into that one or two spot and be able to get a bye in the first week. I know Shane, his team, got to be a little bit worried about Kyler Murray's health right now going into the playoffs, so that could be a little scary. Then sitting at 6-5, the Gridiron going against football Team Perry. Again, like I said, Team Perry last week took a hard hit when they lost to Riverside Smash. That kind of really put a damper on their playoff bid. Gridiron, if they can win this game, put up a bunch of points, and if either me or Trash Pandas loses, she might be able to sneak back into the playoffs. So we'll see how that goes. Then Trash Pandas, like I said, they moved into that 6 spots. They're sitting at 6-5, going against Too Good For You, who spoiled the playoff hopes of my wife last week. Can he do it again? He is sitting at 5-6. And, he's not completely out of it, because if the right teams lose and he puts up enough points, Too Good For You could sneak into the playoffs. If he doesn't make it into the playoffs, I think that might be the first year that since Jackson joined the league that he hasn't made the playoffs. So that'll be an interesting one to watch as well. That should be a good matchup, Trash Pandas and Too Good For You. And then last but not least, we've got the Memphis Mains going against 52 Ball Scratch. 52 Ball Scratch lost a tough. It was closer than expected to Trash Pandas. Had to pick up a defense last second. He's dealing with some injuries and whatnot, much like all of us. This has not been his season. Now, Tim last year is he won the championship, but he's sitting at 2-9 this year. His only hope for the rest of the season is really just to muck up the works for guys like Drummond and Memphis Maine. So I will be rooting for 52 Ball Scratch. I don't know about you. All right, so those are our matchups for the week. Set your lineups. Even if you are out of the playoffs, please set your lineups, because it does make a difference for who does go to the playoffs, or it also matters as to where we're positioned in the playoffs. So even if you are not playoff bound, your team can affect the playoffs. So please set your lineups, put out your best team, do your best, and if you haven't paid your dues, be expecting a passive-aggressive email from yours truly. Other than that, y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving break. Eat all of the pie, and I will see y'all on the Fantasy Gridiron. Ah!